We on our way. So people get ready, 'cause the East Coast rising up. We on our way, on our way. So people get ready, 'cause the East Coast rising up. We on our way, on our way.
Greetings, everybody. This is Tony, aka Cultivated Mind, here at King Street Studios in Hampton Roads, Virginia. Thank you for tuning in to the very first dub of the week. I'll be releasing a dub tune every week that's either a reworking of an old Cultivated Mind song, a brand new tune that's just made from scratch for that week, a preview of new Cultivated Mind music, or a collab with a fellow artist. Could be somebody within the realms of dub and reggae, could be somebody that just kind of works with that genre, maybe is from a different style of music. But the idea is to link up with people to make new music every week, even if I can't, just to put something out. And that way I'm still making an overall album, but in the same time experimenting with new stuff, and hopefully the sound doesn't get stale. So, and to give people something to jam to, that's free, that's, you can bump in your house every week, there's something new to crank. So, that's one thing, is I'm just grateful for the amount of people that show love and tell me that they enjoy the music. So, now that I feel that love and, I appreciate it greatly, it's inspiring me to make more and more music. So that's what I'm going to do. And so every week I'll release a new tune. And, after the tune, the idea is I'll take a minute or two to kind of go over maybe a style of production that I used on it, why I chose to do some of the things I chose to do, maybe how I got around difficulties of recording in a very small room with a lot of junk in it, or possibly what are plugins and pedals or other gear that I might have used to achieve something. And after that, I'll also recommend a dub album that I think you should check out, or maybe a dub song or artist that I think is really sweet. I'm no expert, big disclaimer. I am no expert when it comes to the history of Jamaican music or dub music or British music, but I am a massive fan and a constant life student. So anything I find that I stumble onto, or if I think something is palatable for a beginner, where I'm like, this, you don't have to be a huge fan to really get into this. It's a good starter piece, maybe, to get people roped into this kind of music. I'll drop something like that. So at the end of every single song, I won't normally ramble this long at the beginning of an episode, but it's the first one. So we'll play the tune, and then afterwards I'll break down the production thing. I'll talk a little bit about, pretty much how to get around something in a rough environment, and recording wise, and then I'll talk about something that I'm jamming on. And I hope you guys dig it. Thanks again for tuning in. Like I said, please like and subscribe. That's really what means the most, is that people are listening. It inspires me to keep making music. I'm so appreciative of how many people show love and tell me they enjoy the music and the lyrics reflect and relate to them and reflect on what's going on in their life. And that means the world, and it's why I do what I do. So much love and respect to everybody. Stay safe, take Purell showers, and I'll see you after the tune for a little bit of a breakdown. Much love. Thanks again for tuning in, guys. That song's called East Coast Rockers. It's actually a preview to the new album. It won't be on any album. It's just kind of reflective of the style of a few different songs that are on the album. And it's, kind of the original kind of feel that I used for a lot of my rhythms, which is, that kind of straight strut rockers. So just something that was kind of, felt comfortable for me to put together and experiment a little bit with trumpet since I'm new with that. But, don't hate on me. That's one of my weakest spots, and I'm still learning. Right now, I'm going to go over two things. So, gear talk. Number one, I'd like to go over first just the plugins that I'm using. So, to get something that sounds nice and warm, you can actually use any sort of tape emulator. The one that I use is the Abbey Road one from Waves. J37, and I'll have a link to that down there. Some of the effects are heavy-handed, some of the presets, but a lot of them are actually amazing, and they give you like that analog tape hiss without like overcrowding the sound of the music, and they warm up and saturate nice, so if things distort or whatever, it sounds more like a warm blanket rather than a harsh crackle or a hiss, which is nice. So one thing is, if you're using something like GarageBand and you don't have a third-party plugin, which I actually use GarageBand with third-party plugins because I'm insane and I use an outside hard drive to connect them to. That way I don't overload my computer, but it happens anyway sometimes. That's why I'm moving on to Logic at the moment, which I've used before and I love and I can't wait to get. But GarageBand, you can do it. So one of those little sneaky peeks, there is platinum analog tape compressors that help shave off a little bit. One thing you can do is under the Space Designer Warped Effects, there is I believe a tape saturator, analog tape saturator plugin. You got to go through where it says Warped Effects. And when you put that on dry, you can leave the wet however you want, honestly, because you're really just trying to get the effect of shaving off some things, and barely put on, what do you call it? Forgot what the bottom knob is on it. It's killing me right now, but the percentage of it, maybe that is the wet knob. Yeah, that's the wet knob. Top is the length, of the seconds of reverb. I leave that sucker all the way up because I like nice big open feel, and it only goes up to, I think, 2 seconds or something like that, which is reasonable but large. So yeah, on the bottom, make sure that you have barely any wetness. I think it goes down to like negative 55% or some crap like that. But if you're far back like that, you'll start hearing the warmth on the kick, which is a good sign that you're in the right direction. If you go too far, there's like a weird nasty phase that happens. That's how you know you've gone too far. So check that out. That's like a secret little thing. You can use it as an actual reverb effect, but no offense to GarageBand, it kind of bites, and I wouldn't do that. I honestly use it just a little bit to warm up tracks, and it's been quite amazing. Once again, check out the Abbey Road as well. That's an amazing plugin. And that's it for the gear talk on that one. In the next segment, I'll talk a little bit about what stuck lining is, how to EQ a stuck line, or at least how I like to do it, why it's important for reggae music, and I'll go over what the next, the jam of the week is. So stick around, and that's the next segment. Much love. Thanks again for tuning in to Dub of the Week. It's the first episode, and this will be the last little segment. I'm going to talk about stuck line picking, or stuck picking, or palm muting, reggae licks, whatever you want to call it. Typically, it's stuck picking. But I'm going to go over that, and then we'll talk about just some music to check out. But once again, like and subscribe, pass it on to your friends. I'll be back next week with another brand new dub tune and a couple little ideas for mixing, mastering, a gear or whatever we pull out for next week. But thanks to everybody, much love. And so here we go, stuck lining. Stuck lining is, or stuck picking is when the guitar plays the same exact line as the bass, except for with palm muting. Typically there is an absence of bass sounds in the guitar, and there's an absence of high and mid end in the bass, so they compensate for each other in the mix. A lot of people will, have really low bass and a little more meat in the stuck end, in the guitar end, and a lot of people will have maybe a little more mids in the bass, and a lot less of the lower mids in the guitar. So it's really just what you want to do and what kind of sound you like. There's no wrong way to eat a Reese's, correct? So it just depends on what you really like, and what is your taste. But typically what I'll do is I'll pull a low pass filter to like 1 or 200, and then I'll have a high, that's on the bass, and then I'll have a high pass filter on the guitar, around like 300 or 400, and I try and meet around 300 and start pulling them to that frequency. When things start getting money, I back off, and then I'll pull out some of the mids from the bass maybe, or typically what I'll actually do is I'll pull out some of the low mids from the guitar if there's any left, and let kind of like, you know, the low mids and the bass frequency just enough for that rubbery pull, but still nice and warm. But the idea is that you bring the frequencies closer to closer with the pass filters. I'm a 300-400 kind of guy. Some people go as low as 2, as high as 5. Things get muddy in that area, especially in reggae, because of the organ bubble. People's vocals can hit there, maybe clavinet, whatever you're using. So the idea is you don't want to have that conflicting too much. Bass takes the bass, guitar takes the mids and highs, and if you got to eat out some of the lower frequencies and dig them out a little bit, the lower mids out of a bass or out of a guitar, so be it. And the idea is that it kind of feels like a unified giant fat bass line, with still that plucking sound, which is great because it'll cut through your phone, it'll cut through any system, it'll cut through a mix. So that's just something that I feel like is a common thing you hear like a lot in reggae. No one really ever taught me how to do a stuck line mix. It was just something that I kind of like hammered out. I'm sure I got it wrong to some people. If you got a better way of doing it, like I said, maybe you're a person that uses an effect like a phaser. John Brown Body's Full Control. A lot of the Midnight, rest in peace, Von Benjamin recordings had a phaser that added that meat and in the middle, and also that crisp chop and pick sound. So that's something you can do too. So there's no, like I said, there's no exact science to this. If you feel like you've got one you want to share, put it in the comments. If you got a question about next week, or something you want to have covered on a future episode, let me know. Please like and subscribe. I appreciate your support. Much love to everybody. Stay safe. And for the end of today, the ear candy for this dub of the week, just something to check out. I'm a big fan of Scientist. He's one of the greats. King Tubby's protege, and Roots Radix ain't nobody better. So if I had to pick a good album to start things off with for people who are unfamiliar with dub, I love Lee Scratch Perry. I do love King Tubby. I love Mad Professor, but you know, and Albarosi's got some wicked dub albums. But I'll be honest with you, my man is always going to be Scientist, and the album is dubbed from the Ghetto. It kicks right off with his version of Heavenless. It's got Roots Radix, like I said, Linville Thompson. Everything from triumphant music to everything you'd want in a dub album, giant snare hits. It's really a great introduction to dub music if you've never listened to it. Something to kind of put on at a cookout or hanging with your friends and chilling. It's amazing exploration of space sounds. But yeah, that's my one for this week. So check out Scientist Dub from the Ghetto. It's classic dub album. It's big as it gets sounding, and just keep in mind the time period too, what these guys were doing, and kind of some of the quality of pop recordings at the time. And you realize these guys were way ahead of the time and extremely intelligent with sonic space. So yeah, big that up. Keep the sound moving on. Everybody stay healthy. Much love. Thank you for tuning in to the first episode of Dub of the Week. I'll see you next week for a brand new tune, some brand new tips, some tomfoolery, and y'all take it easy. Goodbye.